Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation, where I review action figures and then articulate 5 points to help you decide if you want to add that figure to your collection. The 5 points I discuss are packaging, presentation, posability, playability, and price. I'm Jason, and if you enjoy my content, please like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube rigmarole. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you've watched my videos on the Snyder Cut versions of Superman, Cyborg, and The Flash, you'd know that I've been really enjoying that line, but that those were the only figures I was able to find. Until now. Today, we're taking another dip in the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Zack Snyder Justice League pool with Aquaman. Starting off the packaging, and this is the 4th box in the Snyder Cut wave I've looked at, so really nothing new to say there. Nice shot of Aquaman on the back along with the other figures in the wave, and as always the barcode for those who want it. As you can see, I picked mine up at GameStop. For packaging, I'm giving Aquaman 1 whole point. Moving on to presentation, and Aquaman stands at just under 7 3/4 inches. Starting off with the head, and I do think that this is actually a pretty fair likeness to Jason Momoa. That being said, I do think that it would benefit from a dry brush to bring out some of the highlights in his hair and beard. Also, if you lift up his hair, he doesn't have any ears. And how is he supposed to wear glasses? Moving on down, and you can really appreciate all of the intricate sculpting in his armor, and also all of that bronze dry brushing. That being said, the dry brushing is also kind of messy and inconsistent. Flipping him around, we can see more of that armor detail on his back, and then moving down the arm, we can appreciate all the detailing in the gauntlets. Cool little fins sticking out of the back. The gauntlets themselves are floating pieces, so you can adjust them to accommodate the articulation, but I really appreciate how they hide those ugly wrist balls. They did do a little bit less of a good job hiding the bicep swivel. The diaphragm joint is also particularly distracting. These two jabby bits really stick out like a sore thumb. The Aquaman belt is nice and crisp though, and it really stands out. But moving down the legs, you can see that there's barely any dry brushing there. Similar to the gauntlets, the boots have a lot of detail, but unlike the gauntlets, they're not terribly adjustable, and while I do really appreciate how well they hide the ball joints, they make accessing those ball joints really difficult. As a result, posing him has definitely been a challenge. I legit had to get in there with pliers just to turn them around right. An overall good sculpt, but hidden by sloppy paint and ugly joints. And to be honest, the quality control issue with the ankles isn't doing it any favors either. Luckily, this figure doesn't have any ears, so he can't hear that for presentation, I'm only giving Aquaman half a point. Moving on to posability, and Aquaman's head is on a dumbbell joint. Because of his long, luxurious hair, he really can't look up, but he can look down just fine. Little bit of tilt, and all the way around. Similar to Cyborg, these shoulder pauldrons are nice and soft, so he can raise his arm all the way up. Little bit of front and back thanks to the McFarlane rotator cuff, and as I discussed in the last segment, he does have bicep swivel. I don't understand why they couldn't have put it there though. Nice crunchy double-jointed elbows, and typical McFarlane wrist. Moving on down to his diaphragm joint, and also similar to Cyborg, this pointy bit is a flexible material, but unlike Cyborg, that doesn't really matter because this thing will not really hunch forward at all. Slide him out back, but to be honest, it really isn't worth it. I know the box says 22 moving parts, so they feel like they need to put them all in there, but if the result is an ugly joint that doesn't do much anyway, honestly, what's the point? After all, he can turn at the waist, he also arches back at the waist, and hunches forward at the waist. Moving down below the waist, he can split this wide. That's actually really good. He can also kick this far forward, and he has a decent amount of swivel. Crunchable double-jointed knees, and I think I talked about the ankles enough already, but he does also have toticulation. In a word, the articulation for this Aquaman is frustrating. The joints are ugly, but eventually they do get the job done. And hey, you could probably say the same thing about me. For posability, I'm giving Aquaman 1 whole point. Moving on to playability, and Aquaman comes with his trading card and figure stand. Feel free to pause here if you want to know what it says, though to be fair, it does say a lot less than it usually does. Seriously, the Bat Cycle has a more detailed write-up. In addition to a trading card and figure stand, Aquaman also comes with his mother's trident, though technically this one has 5 prongs, so I guess that would make it a quindent. I swear that's the most pretentious thing I've ever said. Actually, it's a quindent. I will say that Aquaman's hands are pretty rock solid, so I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to get that thing in there. Heh. That's what she said. Time to bust out the old pliers again and hope that I don't mess this thing up. Alright, 1 down. There has to be a better way. I waited too long. Hell's bells, that was hard. I seriously had to use pliers just to get his hands open enough to hold the thing. That is completely unacceptable. I'm probably gonna have to take this thing out of his hands for the comparison section, and to be honest, I'm kinda dreading it. Mainly just for how hard it's gonna be for him to grab it again. That's what she said. But as I always say, playability is more than just accessories. It's also about how well your figure plays with others, so here we go. First of all, here he is alongside my entire Aquaman collection. We have Aquaman from the Superpowers collection and also the Total Justice series by Kenner, and then on his left we have Aquaman from DC Essentials. You can definitely see how Jason Momoa's version is a combination of the classic and 90s looks. And for other members of the Aquaman cast, here he is alongside the Brightest Day Mira and the DC Essentials Black Manta. And last but not least, here he is alongside my live-action Justice League so far. And just in case you're wondering, no, you did not miss a video on the 1984 Wonder Woman. I picked her up loose and incomplete at a toy store and simply chose not to review her. Maybe I'm being nitpicky, but if I need pliers to make a figure hold its own accessory and move its ankles, it's doing something wrong. For playability, I'm giving Aquaman half a point. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. I tend to focus on the positive, and I also think that I'm pretty generous when it comes to points. That being said, toys are supposed to be fun, but this figure has been incredibly aggravating. At $20 to $25, unless you're looking to build your Zack Snyder Justice League, this Aquaman simply isn't worth it. For price, I'm giving Aquaman half a point for a grand total of 3.5 out of 5. I hope you enjoyed this look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Snyder Cut Aquaman. At the very least, I hope you enjoyed this review more than I enjoyed this figure. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again real soon, but until then, play nice and have fun.